to preparing for auditions or key performances, our goal with a short amount of time is to maximize the ability to breathe before we vocalize. Okay, this is the first thing that we do with our vocalists. It's the most important thing that we do, and we do this through a warm-up before we vocalize, as well as using this stuff maybe backstage or in breaks during an audition to help to kind of open things back up, when we start to notice, the effects of physical things going on, okay? So what we're going to do in this week's segment is give you a couple key tests that are going to show us where we want to focus our attention, okay? The stuff that I'm going to show you is going to take maybe 1 to 2 minutes, okay? It's going to make a massive difference in the way that you breathe and is going to allow you to go into an audition with a full ability to breathe, to use your breath as well as possible. So when it comes to the upper body, undoubtedly the biggest issue that I see for vocalists is forward head posture, okay? And this is a combination of a chest wall that closes off, an upper back that compresses, and a head that as a result comes forward, okay? What this is going to do is cause all of the muscles around our airway to compress as a braking mechanism to keep the head from going too far forward, and that's going to affect airflow into the airway and kind of potential exhalation that eventually is going to create sound. So what we want to do is use our neck test today to give us an idea of where we are most compressed so we can focus our efforts there. Okay, to kind of open this area back up or open up our upper back, or maybe, it's somewhere in our cranium. How do we know? So we're going to use our chin to chest. And what this looks like is that I want to make sure that my head is in line with my body. Okay, I'm going to bring my chin down to my chest, hold, and then extend and come back down, okay? Now, if we are not able to bring the chin to the chest, okay, if that's an issue, if you find that that's, you're quite stiff in the back, or you're noticing kind of stiffness back there, you just can't make it down, our focus is going to be on the upper back, okay, because the upper thoracic spine and the lower cervical spine sort of operate together, okay? So I'm going to show you an exercise for that. Whereas, if I can't get my ears to about parallel with my shoulders, okay, you feel a lot of stiffness here, then we're going to focus on your chest wall, because the inability to open this area up is an indication that we have sort of maybe overactive scalenes or SEMs, or maybe a rectus abdominis that just won't let go, okay? So starting with our chest wall, my favorite position is what is called the crab position, okay? And so when we talk about the crab, I'm gonna start by coming onto my hands, okay? And I'm gonna literally do a tricep extension behind me. Okay, I'm extending my arms, I'm pushing away from the ground, and I'm trying to kind of feel the inside of my hands, okay? And what I should be feeling is my shoulder blades being kind of pulled together, as well as my triceps, all right? In this position, what I want to do is look up, find just a slight stretch in my neck, pull my shoulder blades together to kind of open up my chest, and breathe. I'm going to breathe in through my nose. I'm going to exhale. I'm just going to hold for about 1 minute. Now, to make this exercise a little bit more impactful, I can also bring my hips slightly off the ground. Okay, that's going to put more load on my triceps, and that's also going to send a more powerful signal for those muscles to pull my shoulder blades together. Start with a thing that allows you to feel an opening in your chest, okay? I want you to be able to feel an expansion here, particularly of your manubrium area and sort of the clavicular area, but also lower down. I also want you to be able to feel a relative expansion of the airway, okay? Now, on the other hand, if you have a tough time getting your chin to your chest, okay, we're going to focus on the upper back, okay? And so my go-to for the upper back is just a seated low reach, okay? So what I'm doing here is I'm just sitting down, I'm opening my hands up, I'm reaching with my arms to sort of push my rib cage backwards, I'm looking forward, and I'm just breathing in. My goal here is just to open my hands up, to externally rotate my hands, and just to feel air coming into my upper back. My arms are like aimers, so when my arms are down here, it's going to send a line up to my upper back to help to open that area up. Now, another position that I like a lot is just an all-fours position. So I'm going to open my hands up, I'm going to put my eyes straight in front of me, I'm going to breathe in through my nose, exhale through my mouth, and think about pushing the ground away from me with my elbows to help to open up my upper back. Give those a try. 1 to 2 minutes in each position. Perform before your audition or just throughout the day to open those areas up. And you'll notice a massive difference as far as the way that you breathe. When it comes to our pelvic floor, one of my favorite exercises to help to assess kind of what's going on is the squat. The squat gives us a good indication of whether the pelvic floor can load sufficiently as well as whether we can propel sufficiently, okay? And so when I do a squat, what I'm looking for is, okay, can I drop straight into a squat or do I lean forward early on, okay? And so when you look at me do a normal squat, I can get to about here, but pretty clearly, you know, I'm quite stiff in the back. Everything is pushing me forward. And so for me, I have a tough time sort of what is called counter-nutating my sacrum, or sort of tipping back in order to load my pelvic floor very much. Like, I'm very good at producing force. I can create the stiffness to push forward, but I have a hard time sort of letting go of that tension, okay? Whereas for somebody else that can just drop straight down, okay, but maybe has trouble pushing back up, the opposite is true. It's easy enough to drop down and load the pelvic floor, but what I find with a lot of my taller singers is that while they can drop down into a squat, because the range of motion is greater, it requires greater pressure to push back up, and that's where they're going to fall apart. So what I like to work on that is just pretty simple, adopting the position, the shape that you have a hard time creating. And so for the stiff person, for me, you know, I'm holding onto a pole here as a counterbalance. What I want to do is get a slight bend in my knees and dig my heels back. Okay, find hamstrings in this position, and then just work on squatting straight down into a deep squat. In this position, I'm going to be in maximal spinal flexion. The back side of my pelvis is going to be, or my lumbar spine is relaxed. Everything in my kind of my pelvic bowl is maximally open, so I can drop down further. In this position, I'm just going to breathe deep and exhale, working on just sort of sitting back into my heels. And if this is a problem, what I can also do, is kind of similar to what we did with our upper body, is just sit in a kind of a bear sit position, okay, which is similar to a deep squat. Okay, now, if I'm somebody that's a little bit better at loading down but has a harder time coming up, you know, you find you have problems kind of creating tension in your pelvic floor, what I would coach you to do is sort of drop down to about 90 degrees, okay? And this is where the pelvic floor is going to maximally compress, because this area, about 90 to about 120 degrees, is where we kind of bias a position where the pelvis is, the top part of the pelvis closes, the bottom part opens, and we naturally kind of create maximal compression. So down here at about 90 degrees, I'm going to breathe in, load down slightly, and then exhale and stand up out of it slightly. Breathe in, and then exhale. So my weight is my heels as I go down, my weight is my toes as I come up. So I'm sort of oscillating through this range, really working on sort of loading the pelvic floor and propelling from the pelvic floor in this position of maximal compression to help to kick on, to help everything to open up and get contract and sort of turn that area on and give us some good tension there. Okay, so based upon that, just as with the other videos, I would do maybe 1 to 2 minutes of each thing. And again, just retest, see if your test has gotten better. But using those two tests, the squat as well as the chin to chest, is going to give you kind of a good appraisal of where you are, what you need to work on. Pick those drills. Let us know if you have any questions, and we look forward to your success.